He was born in 1861 in a place called Birdville, which was near Fort Worth in Texas, and he was right from birth. He was practically a natural horseman. He was a larger-than-life figure because he had a horse that he trained to do tricks. And not only he used to amuse all the military fellows when he used to ride up with on this lovely white horse, and he used to teach it to play dead and all this kind and do other tricks when he used to bow to him and there was all sorts of things. He was by the time he was 14, he was breaking horses and rounding up cattle and then became the trail boss at an early age, and was driving cattle on a famous Chisholm Trail. And it was on that at that time when the Chinese cook that they used to take with them to provide the food was in his spare time used to fly kites, make and fly kites, and the Chinese, you know, they practically invented them. And Cody became fascinated with these things. He came over to England when he had a consignment of horses that he had to bring over to a gentleman by the name of Blackburn Davis, who lived in London. He was a horse trader and bloodstock man. He brought these horses over, and whilst he was there, Blackburn Davis had a very attractive daughter by the name of Leela, who Cody saw, and she saw him and saw this tall, sun-bronzed, handsome fellow with flowing locks, and the cowboy gear he was wearing was attractive, and they fell in love. He became over to England. He went to the RAF establishment at Farnborough, experimental establishment, and with a fellow by the name of Colonel Capper, who saw the potential of these kites, became his friend, and he introduced him to people who could pave his way into selling his kites to the government. And very often the government can't see a good thing when it's in front of them, and they didn't at the time, but the Navy did. And by this time he'd got these man-lifting kites, and they thought they would be good for observation purposes.
Was Colonel S.F. Cody related to Buffalo Bill Cody, and did they ever meet?
They met, but he wasn't related. Buffalo Bill was an older man. Cody admired him, and he admired his circus that he had. Performing. He used to do mock Indian attacks and things on wagons, covered wagons and all that kind of thing. And he copied him so well that Buffalo Bill sued him in the end for copying his act. So he said he still set up a circus of his own, but he had variations. He had to keep it different to Buffalo Bill, otherwise there would have been trouble again. But it was quite successful, and he had terrific shows. He travelled all over the world with it, took it to Paris, performed before Queen Victoria, and that's where he was an excellent shot. And young Vivian was billed as the youngest trick shot in the world at the time.
Tell me more about the trick shots.
Cody used to hold him by his ankles and swing him like a pendulum. And with a 2-2 rifle, he used to be shooting glass balls that were all around his mother, and she was fitted into a steel plate with a silhouette of her body cut out, and she was fitted into this. And they're glass balls all the way around, and they used to just shoot these things. And occasionally she got a nick, but she always used to wear red, so if she bled at all, it didn't show. He used to shoot things from the back of the auditorium, which was about 200 feet away, and little glass balls and stuff like that. And he was quite a remarkable shot.
Now, we mentioned about kites and powered kites. and the idea really never took off. But then he moved on into being a pioneer of early aviation.
Yes.
What do you think drove him to do this?
Well, he was looking at these kites one day, and he thought he had a massive great winch, iron winch, that used to winch them up, man carrying, and they used to take 2 people in these kites, and he flew them in Hyde Park in London. Everybody saw Mr. Cody's kites way up in the sky, you know, when they were all flying. And he said, he thought one day, well, I wonder if I was to put an engine in one of those, it would fly. So he made a few modifications and put an engine in it, and he went up in the thing. He crashed, he survived. He had several run-ins, he had lots of close shaves, but it never stopped him. And in the end, he got a kind of a big shed set up on Laffin's Plain in Aldershot, where he used to quietly go over there and build airplanes. And he started entering in to competitions, and there were people like A.V. Rowe and Sopwith and those people around at the time, and they were always challenging each other.
What happened to Colonel Cody on his last ill-fated flight?
It was in 1913, and he was flying a new plane that he designed, and everything was going swimmingly. He'd already taken a fellow up as a passenger, and he landed, and the next chap to go up was a fellow by the name of Evans, who was a county cricketer, and he went up there and he was flying beautifully over the tops of these trees, zooming around, and suddenly the wings folded up, and they were up about 500 feet, and he just plummeted to the ground, and they were both killed. And it was dreadful. The whole of the country, in fact the whole of Europe, knew him and were practically in mourning for Papa Cody, as they called him.
He had quite a big front page on the Daily Mirror.
Oh yes,
reflecting the scale of his funeral, didn't he?
Yes, thousands came to his funeral.
Where is he laid to rest?
He was the only civilian to be given the honour to be buried in the Aldershot Military Cemetery. And I've been to see his grave, it's magnificent.